Hello, computer science students. Welcome back for maybe the second to last video because I realized that there's a couple other little tips and tricks that maybe I'll throw into another video here. But welcome back to another video in our classes series. We are going to focus on creating static methods in our tester classes or in our classes that have main methods. So these are generally going to be little helper methods. You will not create objects from them. And personally, I rarely use these in my day-to-day. If I'm writing a class or if I'm writing a program, solving a problem, I very rarely do this. However, it is useful for demonstrating a couple of things. And in particular, Zybook finds it very useful because representing multiple classes in Zybook can be difficult. So this is kind of an extra add-on that I normally wouldn't teach because it's normally not used that much, but it is useful for understanding Zybook. And since that's our textbook for the year, I think it'll be helpful there. So creating a static method. We talked about creating methods in our class, and we see how they work. We create an object, we call the method, we do things. The keyword static, which we'll delve much deeper into in another video series, means that if you add it as a modifier to a method or to a member variable, to a field, if you add that as a modifier, it means that you aren't going to have to create an object to use it or access it. It's more like it belongs to the class as a whole rather than into an object that you make from the class, right? So Elon or Clemson are objects we made from the team class. The team class itself, has these variables that are created and copied for each version, each team that we create. Elon has a location, a name, a games played, and a games won. Clemson has a team location, a name, a games played, a games won. Clemson can call a set mascot method to return Clemson's name, or to set Clemson's name. Clemson can call a play game method to have the Clemson object play a game. So all these methods and all these member variables that do not have the word static in them are all about defining objects. Static, though, is a keyword that means now the thing we're defining is really a reference to the class as a whole. It doesn't care about making objects, it cares about the class as a whole. And so in our little tester class over here, we're going to create a static method that's going to return a string, because if you read the instruction over here, the comment, I ask you to return a string. And it's going to return each string's location, mascot, and winning percentage. So think about this as trying to print out a little formatted list of each team we have. So we're going to do public static string, and then we're going to do get printout. So we're going to try to do a little printout here, and it takes in as input an array list of team objects. So array list of teams called, team list. And it will return that string. So that's all we need. So we return a string, return type here, and our input is an array list of teams that we're going to call team list. And we're going to try to get a printout to be able to print it. Now, I use the keyword static. All right, so the class I am in is called the tester class. Static means this method is going to belong to my tester class, or it's part of my tester class, references it. It does not need a tester object to call it. So instead, what we will be able to do is call get printout directly without, and we'll pass in my team as an argument. We'll be able to call it directly without creating an object and putting a dot. So I can now call my method directly because the method is part of this tester class, or refers to this tester class, and this main method is in the tester class. So I can call it directly. I don't have to create an object and then type dot and then type the method. I can just type the method in. Now right now the method doesn't do anything, and in fact it will give us an error because we told it we return a string and we aren't returning a string yet. So at some point we need to return, either add a return statement to return a string, or maybe we should have changed the type of this method to void, but that's not the right answer, right? This suggestion is not helpful. I told you it should return a string, you can't change it to return void. That solves the problem, but in a really bad way. We do need to add a return statement, but first we're missing the logic for what string do we return. So we read in this array of this team list, and now we need to go through the array list and print out each team's location, mascot, and winning percentage. So the idea is we would have a printout that says Elon, Phoenix, their win percentage, Clemson Tigers, their win percentage, Duke Blue Devils, their win percentage. And so to do that, we need a loop. I'm going to do for int I equals 0, I less than team list dot, what is it? Do you remember? Remember, array is length, string is length, open and close parentheses. Array list is size, open and close parentheses, and I++. And so we're going to loop through our team list here, and this is the tricky part. We need to return a string that has all of our team's locations, mascots, and winning percentages, and ideally it'd be formatted a little bit. We're going to leave the formatting off for now. Other than that, we're going to do new lines between each team. But to get started, maybe we want to start with an empty string. I'll call this my return string, and it will start empty. And the reason it's going to start empty is so that in my loop I can add to it and build it until it's the full string that we want to return. So we're going to start with an empty string, and we're going to add to it. So each time through the loop, we're going to do return string plus equals. So I'm going to take the empty string, and I'm going to add to it my first team's location. So let's do team list dot get I. Remember, this is like in an array doing array square bracket I. So we're going to get team I from my team list, and from that team I'm going to call get team location, right? So I'm going to get Elon, and then get Clemson, and then get Duke. So in addition, we're probably going to want to add a space after that, right? Because we're going to have the team's location, and then a space, and then their mascot, and then a space, and then their winning percentage. So the next thing I need to do is add return string plus equals team list dot get I dot get let's see, name is what we called it, and then we're going to add a space, and then we're going to do return string plus equals team list dot get I, right? So we're going to get each team, and then we're going to do our get win percentage. And then the trick to this is, how do we end this? If we just add another space, then we're going to have one big long string of just Elon, Phoenix, 66.6 repeating, Clemson, Tigers, and actually we'll probably get an error because we're going to end up dividing by 0. We haven't put any games played or won. So games played is 0, so we're probably going to get an error there. We'll see. And then we're probably going to get Duke Blue Devils and get the same error as Clemson. So either 0%, 100%, or error, depending on how the computer handles it. And I suspect we'll get an error. But if we, back to the relevant problem here before we get ahead of ourselves. Right now we're doing Elon space, Phoenix space, 66.6 repeating. And then if we add a space here, then as we go through the loop again, we're going to get just 66.6 repeating, space Clemson, space Tigers, space their percentage, and then go to Blue Devils. Does anyone remember how we can add a new line instead of adding a space? Does anyone remember the special character for it? It is \n. So we're going to add a \n to the end here. You may or may not have seen this before. This is a special character that says move to a new line. So I'm going to have a team location, then their name, then move to a new line, and repeat it. Location, name, win percentage, new line. All right, so once this is done, then all we have to do at the end is return our return string. And that should work, as long as we call our method inside of a print statement so that the string we give back actually gets printed. So let's run this and see what it looks like. I think, oh, okay, we didn't get an error, but we did get a nan, which is not solvable, which is basically the computer saying this is not solvable. So we made our static method get printout. We passed in my teams, which is Elon, Clemson, and Duke. we printed out our string, which is Elon Phoenix win percentage new line, Clemson Tigers win percentage new line, Duke Blue Devils win percentage new line. And since Clemson and Duke have not played any games, they have a win percentage of NaN, meaning not calculable. We're dividing by 0. If we want to change that real quick, we could do Clemson.playgame with false. Let's say Clemson lost. And then we want Duke to play a game as well, but there's no Duke object, right? We can't do Duke.playgame because we didn't create it as an object. How could we reference Duke? Well, we could do myteams.get, and then index would be 2, right? Elon is 0, Clemson's 1, Duke is 2, and then have Duke play a game this way. So Duke lost and Clemson lost. And so now if we run it again, we see that Elon has a 66.6 repeating win percentage, Clemson's is 0, and Duke's is also 0. We could make Clemson win and make sure this still works as intended, and sure enough we get Clemson now has a win percentage of 100.0, so 100% win percentage. Okay, so there was a lot in there, using array lists and a loop, building a string, using a new line character. Some of this should be stuff you're familiar with, some of it might be pretty new, but hopefully it makes sense now. If you have questions about it, please let me know. I'll be happy to go over it, make it a little more, do a few more examples, make it a little more clear, if that would help. The key, one of the kind of, if nothing else, the biggest takeaway, the most important takeaway to me personally that you get from this is that if you create a static method in the class that it has our main method, then inside that main method you can call the static method by just typing its name and passing in information. So it kind of bypasses that creating an object to call a method paradigm, which is much more common. It's much more common to create an object and then call the method on the object. But sometimes for quick little problems, doing this can make sense, and using static can make sense. And we're going to talk about all the implications of the static modifier in a next video series, where it matters and it makes a big difference. So I will see you guys next time.